An intellectual carrot. The mind boggles.
You see? You see? Your stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 141. I'm Aaron Pellier.
And I'm Darlene.
We watched The Head.
That's not its name in West Germany. It's Die Hekta und Satan, which means the naked and the Satan.
Okay, so your German's really poor, I guess.
I do know my German.
The only German I know is from World War II movies, so it's like, Schnell. Anyway. It's called The Head in America.
Yep. And it's a horror film by Victor Tavis.
Is it a horror film?
No. Not even by its 1959 standard.
No, it's not a horror film. Is it science fiction? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, actually.
It's 97 minutes long.
It's far too long. I will begin this review by saying I did not like the plot. I was fascinated with other aspects of this movie, though. Like, really fascinated by them. And it's because I think that there's a lot of German expressionism in this movie, shot-wise. It's stuff that we kind of see in some of the weirder early Universal horror films. The use of light and shadow, the use of different stage, either like architecture of the set or different props being in the foreground or background that you're moving between. I was really fascinated with that. So the plot very quickly took a secondary. It took a backseat to everything else for me because the plot was fairly simple and it was drawn out, right?
Yes, it was very drawn out. And I couldn't tell you who was who for a while. So yeah. I might actually be telling you the wrong character.
I will agree with you here. I will agree. The only name I ever figured out quickly was Irene, who was the
sister.
She had a hunchback. She had a disability. And Lily, it's the two women that I actually got their names because Lily is a stripper.
Well, you got Professor Dr. Abel.
Professor Dr. Abel, yeah.
That's what it was called.
That's
what it was on the
Professor Dr. Abel.
It was on the plaque that as you go into the house.
Yes, you did get that.
So you got that, but the problem is you were like, there was 3 doctors there, and it was like, which one was it? And it turned out to be the oldest.
Yes.
The kind of heavy set one, and you had, well, in that scene you had one that wasn't a doctor, which was Bert, and I confused him all the way through with Dr. What's the doctor that has the Burke? Because
there's Bert and Burke.
Yes, and that was a bad decision.
Yeah, you don't want to do, if you name characters that have names that sound very similar, it's kind of like saying, hey, I'm Aaron, and then having another character named Aaron with E-R-I-N.
A girl.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden when somebody's just having a regular conversation that isn't directly related to one of those two characters being in that scene, it can be confusing to who you exactly are talking about. Now,
yeah.
Bert,
I have this at work. I have 3
Jessies, right?
I have 3 Jessies, and I have a Brendan, a Brendan, and a Brandon.
Okay.
don't use those three names.
It's just don't name characters that have very similar sounding names. So while it might be different, that Bert might sound different than Burke because there's the k in it. When you have crappy audio that's dubbed English over German, it does not sound different. Correct?
Yes. And they used the one guy's first name and the one guy's last name.
Which were the similar sounding names. Exactly.
Which were the similar sounding names.
So yeah, the only characters that really stood out to me name-wise at the beginning is Irene and Lily. But we do learn Paul, who is Lily's boyfriend in this. I know we haven't gotten into the plot because the plot is super simple.
We only learned that when Irene started calling him by his name.
Yes, because I think that when he was first introduced, Lily used his name very quickly once. I didn't catch it. Mainly because I think the English dub of it was not that great. Okay, so at least the version that I had was not like subtitled.
It was dubbed
It was
over.
English dubbed. It's in a Mill Creek box set that we got this from. At the very least, I could watch the movie. It was not bad video quality. Okay, it was on DVD. It's just that the original audio was pretty poor. Now, so let's get into the movie. I want to say something about these credits that begin right at the beginning.
Okay.
Right at the start. The credits, and I thought that the credits were playing over a sun that was covered in smoke. That's what I have in my notes. It's like, okay, well, this is a sun. There's smoke moving in front of it. Turns out that that's not the case. It's actually the moon at night. It's just that it's so overexposed that you can't tell.
Is it the same one they showed every once in a while in the film?
At the end. No, it's the same shot at the end of the film where the one guy's looking out the window and freaking out.
Well, there was another time that they showed the moon with clouds over top, and I was like, what does this have to do with the doggone... I felt like a werewolf. It only turned out to be the moon after there was mention of it being night, and you're like, oh, that's the same shot as the opening credits. I guess it's not like a sun that has smoke going in front of it. So poor filmmaking. Do you want to take this, or should I try to start describing these scenes? I'll start it.
Okay.
The first one I have here is Sister Irene goes to see Dr. Abel.
Okay.
And she's inquiring whether he can take care of her hunchback.
I think that they had discussions prior.
They had discussions prior. You got that. And she's the cousin of Dr. Burke.
She is?
Yes. I find out that later.
God. Okay. Thank you, Darlene. All right. Fine.
And then you have another scene where Dr. Ode comes in. He's been requested, I guess, to be an assistant to the professor. And he's interested in the professor's... the professor got the dog head to keep alive.
And they mentioned the fact that this removal of a dog's head and keeping it alive for a long time had been done by the Soviets prior to him, that he wasn't the first. And that's actually true. This experiment really did happen in real life.
And Serum Z kept the flesh alive.
Yeah.
Then we go to the Tam Tam Club.
Okay, now the Tam Tam Club I'm going to talk about for a moment, because the Tam Tam Club is fantastic.
Go ahead.
It is fantastic. It is a strip club, clearly in Germany, that is tiki themed. Very tiki themed. Except for the strip shows, which are in stark contrast to the tiki theme, because we're introduced to Lily stripping as a medieval princess around a giant suit of armor. And it is at this point that not only am I confused as to the theme of the strip club, because it
did make you think that there's two different places.
Yeah, because there are shots near the bar where it does not look tiki themed at all. It looks like 1950s modern bar. But in the shots that are looking towards the stage or to the sides of the room, the main performance room, there are everything South Pacific that you can see. Everything South Pacific that you can think of.
In her back room where you have her talking to Paul, and you don't even understand that that's Paul.
Is there tiki stuff back there too?
No, it looks like a bedroom.
That is true. This scene also gave me the impression that it had been edited. And I say that because there are, inside her dressing room and out on the stage, her dance just kind of gets cut off. Back in the dressing room, her undressing gets cut off. I want to say that there was nudity in this film. It's West German, different standards, different.
They did that on a lot of it, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that I think about it, because when they start to have Irene,
when there's the trigger alert sexual assault that occurs,
it blacks out.
It stops. I have the feeling, and I can't prove it, that this movie was edited for U.S. distribution with the nudity taken out.
That explained the naked. I don't know about the Satan.
Yeah, I mean, it's even in the title, and I didn't know what the translation of the German title was. I'm just saying that there are points in this movie that it clearly felt like there should have been more, and it always cuts where you would think that there would be nudity happening, like the sexual assault, or as she is stripping, and she's spinning around the knight's armor, and she's grasping at her shoulder like she's going to take off her top, and it just cuts. And I think there also had to have been a whole other scene with her topless in her dressing room talking to Paul before they come out to sit at the bar. And this is a part of the problem with the plot, that there seems to be maybe 10 minutes worth of material that was chopped out of this that actually hurt the plot having it chopped out. It just so happens that there was important dialogue that occurred with one of the girls topless. I cannot prove that, but if you watch this movie, Darlene, do you see what I'm saying though?
Yes, I see what you're saying. I didn't write anything about what was going on in the Tam Tam Club.
The Tam Tam Club is the least skeezy thing in this whole movie. And it's a strip club. Shockingly enough, it is the least skeezy thing because it's interesting. Everyone is dressed in like shirts and ties.
There's a lot of women there.
There are women in evening gowns, and they're not ladies of the night. There are like actually couples coming to watch these shows. This is a high-end place. That's what it comes across as.
Yes, it did. Except for at the bar, where it looked like anyone could walk in, get a...
It looked like a modern Howard Johnson's. Like, hey, let's go drink at the Howard Johnson's. And that's really groovy. That's what the bar came off as. Like the bar
looked like it was a totally different place.
The bar should have been like Max's Celsius Hideaways in Grand Rapids, where it's also tiki themed. There's like hula girls on like lamps, or there's like tribal looking masks on the wall. Yes, that's kind of racist in some ways to put that in.
Which bar though? Because the downstairs,
Darlene, I'm talking about the one right at the front of the restaurant where we usually sit. We can look right over at it. I know that doesn't help everybody listening, but if you're ever near Grand Rapids, folks, go to Max's Celsius Hideaways.
They got two bars.
They have three bars.
One looks like a boat.
One looks like a boat is upstairs. The second bar that's downstairs is actually looks like a airliner's lounge from the late 1950s. It looks super mod in it. Okay, remember it has that like weird retro art map of the world, and it's like clean linoleum and formica. And then there's the main bar, which has all like the bamboo and hula girls and tiki mugs, things like that. The bar shouldn't have been super modern Howard Johnson's. It should have been at the very least like that front bar, the tiki bar.
Yeah, because
It didn't fit in. It looked like it
didn't-
was
yeah.
multiple locations.
it looked like that whole scene looked like it was multiple locations.
So I'm sorry for going on like a 5-minute tangent here, but I wanted to talk about it because the Tam Tam Club was the coolest, least skeezy thing in this film, and it's a strip club, but we never see anything. So keep going, Darlene. We go to the Tam Tam Club.
Well, Lily is flirting with who we find out to be Paul.
Yes.
And Aaron explains some of that stuff with you. And then it drops back down to Professor Abel talking about his heart.
How his heart is
going bad.
Yes.
And they're wanting to do a heart transplant.
This was very confusing.
And there's a dead man that comes in that
They call him a dead tramp.
that Irene brings in. Sister
Okay.
Irene.
This is confusing to me.
And they call her a nurse in this one. But the credits call her a, how would you call that?
Schweister, Irene. I don't know what Schweister.
It means sister.
It means sister.
That's
Okay.
I had to look that up, and that's why I missed all.
You know
the
what? She's a nurse from like a order. She.
That's all I could get.
Okay.
Because they called her a nurse in this.
So the confusion is that Abel wants to do surgery on this tramp to save his life by giving him his heart. But we've just learned that Abel's heart is defective and failing. So Abel wants to kill himself.
Not kill himself. He's wanting a heart transplant, and that's why he brought in Dr. Ode.
Why does he? But he's wanting to save the tramp's life, right?
No,
Why?
he's dead already.
He doesn't know that. We only learn that the tramp is fully dead later on.
But there's Dr. Ode has a fight with Dr. Brooke,
Yeah.
which is Irene's cousin.
Which I
And
didn't
we don't
catch.
I don't even understand what they're fighting over, besides that it might be morale about the dead.
Oh no, it's ethics. That there is every single ethics issue being raised all at once because Abel is clearly a former Nazi doctor. Like everything about what this guy is doing, all the experiments this guy is doing would have raised scientific ethics issues. I don't know where he gets his funding. Probably through stolen Nazi
Well,
gold.
Dr. Ode is not his name. We find out
Dr.
that...
Ood's not the one that's running this entire thing. Abel
Oh,
is.
you mean Abel. Yeah, I don't...
His ass should have been thrown in jail or put on trial at the Nuremberg trials. Like, this... He's an evil SOB, and I really don't feel that much sympathy for him in this case.
No, I don't either.
And what happens next, and I'm sorry for taking this, I'm trying to get through this damn plot, is that Ood knocks Abel out. Abel is wanting to get knocked out because he's thinking he's going to get a new heart or whatever. He wakes up, he's a head on a tray. He's a head on a tray.
Over top of a vat.
Over top of a vat that has his like compound or serum Z in it, right? And Ood then monologues. Does the whole mustache twirling monologue thing saying, the tramp was already dead. I am wanting to learn the secrets of serum Z, and you're going to tell me, because otherwise you're never going to get a body back. I'm going to just leave you here like this. Okay? Because I guess there was enough serum Z to keep his head alive and a little bit more. Right?
You also have the part where Irene is asking about where Dr. Brooke is, because he's just disappeared.
Yeah, Dr. Brooke gets killed by Ood.
And then the police, because she's went to the police about Dr. Walton Brooke disappearing, the police found a body without a head.
Yeah, and they
had Dr. They found the body of Dr. Abel, but they thought it might have been Dr. Brooke.
All confusion. It's all confusion to me. It's all confusion.
And that's why Irene comes back about her to the place about her cousin disappearing, and Ood asks about the surgery to fix her hunchback.
Yes. Okay, so now we get into this weird bit with Lily again. We go back to the Tam Tam Club. Lily is we haven't really talked about how awful of a person Lily is.
Yeah, she is horrible to anyone, but we just think she's at the first scene you think it's just with Paul.
Then no, it seems like she's actually drunk all the time.
And she's drunk and smoking all the time.
She might be on drugs. At least it's implied. And it's also implied that she earns money through selling her body.
Yes.
Okay.
But you do have something that comes in on this scene, because Dr. Ood comes in and takes Lily onto the floor and calls her Stella. Her real name. She knows him, and I never got what name he is. So you got these two people that were in some kind of crime thing before. And you do find out that when she was Stella, she did something like poison her husband, and then Ood refixed her face so she could be out in public again.
Yeah.
So he did plastic surgery on her
to get her to have a different identity. So he brings Lily back to the lab and knocks her out. He brings Irene back to the lab, knocks her out. Then
time goes by because
we don't know how much time.
They have a clock. I want a stereotypical thing on here.
Yeah.
They have a clock, and then they go to the sky changing.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
I was busy writing notes at that point. I saw the clock changing, and I remember saying, I guess your clock's broke, Doc. It's freaking out. Because it just looked like somebody was turning.
Yeah, they had a clock that was turning fast, and then they went to clouds going by.
Okay, so Irene wakes up, and she immediately stands up and isn't hunched over. She's holding and when she stands up, I actually thought we were going to get nudity because all she has on is a sheet, and it doesn't look like
you're skipping something.
Am I?
Yes, because the first thing when she wakes up, he says something to her, and she goes, because she says, my hands feel not like my hands. And then Dr. Ood has her come towards him, and she says that her body does not feel right, that her body doesn't feel like it was hers, and then she notices her feet.
Yes, I hadn't gotten to that part yet. Actually, you skipped ahead because I was trying to go through what she was doing before Ood talked to her, because she stood up, she was trying to figure out why she felt so tall, because she doesn't have the hunchback yet. She doesn't have the hunchback anymore. She was trying to feel her neck because there's all this bandaging around her neck. And then Ood comes in and says all these things. And they have this conversation. And it turns out that she's been asleep for 117 days. And Ood first claims that he has completely reworked her body through glands and surgery on every organ, et cetera, et cetera. That's why she feels different. Obviously, we know what's going on, that he has actually given her Lily's body because he was lusting after Lily's body anyway.
That's why he was at...
She figures this out pretty quickly later on.
Yes, he sexually assaults her at this time.
For the first time. And she runs away from him down into the basement or something. I guess.
And Irene shuts the door, and she pulls down a suitcase. And this is where she finds out that she's wearing clothes. These clothes fit her.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the Tam Tam Club.
Why does she go to the Tam Tam Club? Don't know. It's just she does. Well, here's one possible explanation. Lily's body is giving her urges. Lily smokes. So Irene
Lily
wants to smoke.
drinks. Well, that's the first thing he does is gives
her a smoke,
cigarette.
and she's like, "Oh God, that tastes so good," but I don't smoke. And okay, well, she drinks. Lily acts like a prostitute.
Yes, a very bad floozy, and she was
And
always like,
Irene seemingly no longer is this kind of virtuous woman. She seemingly acts like a very loose woman.
yes, there is a difference in that thing. And when she goes to the Tam Tam Club, she goes in Lily's clothes and meets Paul,
The boyfriend.
the boyfriend, and is told because she's asking about Lily.
Yes, and he's like, "Oh, you have the same like beauty mark that Lily has
That's
on
a
her
little
shoulder."
bit later.
Because she goes back to his house. I don't care what. At this point, the plot's so meaningless.
He said she died 3 months ago and was found out on the train tracks.
Her body was so badly mauled, it was almost unidentifiable.
And Paul dances with her and kind of goes, "This feels like Lily."
Yeah, you feel
And
like Lily.
That's why he invites her back to his studio so he can sculpt her.
Because you might think, "Oh, I'm inviting you back to see my sculpting, like my etchings or whatever."
So you think he's a sleaze,
but he's not. He really is an artist and has been using Lily as a muse. And maybe the reason why Lily has been so kind of crappy to him is the fact that he has actually treated her with respect and honor, and she hasn't been used to that. At least that's what it came across to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when she's there, that's where he sees like the beauty mark
on her shoulder.
And she freaks out and goes, "Oh my God, I have Lily's body. They gave me Lily's body."
So she confronts Dr. Ood.
Dr. Ood sexually assaults her again.
And yes.
They're in bed together, and it turns out that like Ood has had like a surgery on himself to make him more intelligent. And he slowly not slowly. He now and then has these attacks where he kind of acts like a nutball and like screams at the moon. This is where we learned that was the moon,
That's
not the sun. Yeah. Like,
that's the first.
No. Oh man, where
then
are
you
we?
Have
Dr. Abel is begging to be killed because he's just a head on a tray.
And she can't do it. Irene couldn't pull the plug of Dr. Abel.
Yeah, so Paul gets to the lab, and this is where, we already said that Ood sexually assaults Irene. Paul and Ood confront each other at the Tam Tam Club in another scene. They keep going back and forth. Paul ends up going to the police and convincing them that something really fishy is going on.
They don't listen to him until then one guy finds out that he's the son of a judge.
Yeah, so
why wouldn't you listen to somebody?
Ood kills like the last assistant, and
that's Bert.
And then Abel says that they'll pay for their crimes. Ood starts dousing the entire lab in gasoline. The cops arrive. While the lab is on fire, we see Abel's head burning.
Well, Ood tried to burn down the studio too.
Yes. So Paul finds Irene, and Ood freaks out while looking at the moon again. So Ood throws himself off the balcony, and Paul tells Irene that now you're free.
And takes her away.
The end. Like, as I said, the plot is so secondary to me.
It goes back and forth between Dr. Abel's place,
and the Tam
Tam Club, and the studio.
The studio apartment is only there for like a couple scenes, maybe. It doesn't really go back there all the time. It's like the Tam Tam Club, we go there maybe 4 or 5 times.
But I'm just like, you could have taken out one of those.
You could have taken it out, but remember, I've already said that it seems like this movie's been butchered as it is to remove nudity. The problem is that the nudity also had important dialogue in it. So the plot, at least that's my theory, the plot is disjointed at best in this. I can't say the plot is bad, but it's disjointed, and therefore it takes second place to what I feel the movie actually, what works in the movie. That's the set design and the general cinematography.
It got 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but I don't I don't
And I was
care
like,
really about
and
that.
the other one was, what was the percentage in?
It gets 5.5, like 5.3 on Internet Movie Database. But remember, I don't judge a movie based on its
I would
ratings.
say it's about a mediocre
It's a mediocre film, but
film.
here's the thing: is it? Let's talk about what works and what doesn't work. Like I said, the sets I think are interesting in this, especially the Tam Tam Club. I think a lot of effort went into the Tam Tam Club. At least that's what it looks like. I think there has to have been more scenes filmed there. Too much effort was put into it. I also think that the lab sets, like this weird spiral staircase that's in the lab, the strange art of like Da Vinci's Man, and all that stuff is interesting. And
well, that whole laboratory, that place, could have fit in today's time.
yeah, it could have. It could have. It's not bad at all. The only other thing I think works, man,
I just,
I think that might be the only thing I would say actually works.
I really
in this film.
think that the person that played Irene was really good.
I think the actress, her name's Karen Kernke. I think she did good with what she was given, but I don't think I would put her into the realm of works in this. It doesn't. I think she was. It's average. Her performance was average.
She played first the nun.
Yes, and then
she had to play the floozy, and she really divided the two.
I think her performance might have been more interesting had they not cut out her struggling with Ood in the assault scene. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that I want to see an assault. I want to say, what I'm saying is that I think there should have been more struggle with Ood outside of the assault. There should have been Irene struggling with conflicting feelings, where we really don't see that. It's, ooh, I don't like you, and then snap cut, she's half undressed in bed with Ood draped over her. Like there's very little there. It's
and
clearly
he was
been
creepy.
Oh yeah, he is. But it's cut, and it does a disservice to the character and any kind of empathy you're trying to have for her, because it makes her feel like she's entirely unable to.
Yeah, and then she
has no agency.
And after she's been assaulted by him, she just goes into like zoned.
I mean, I can understand that realistically one can go into shock after that, but she doesn't really go into shock. She's just seemingly, okay, I guess I'm fine with that. Like, it did not come across well. It did not come across well. So what I would say is what doesn't work in this film for me is the editing, the plot because of the editing, and the general acting in this film overall just does not work.
Probably because of the editing.
And it might be because of the editing, but the editing I have is a theory that the editing has been done to this film. Regardless, if it's not, if the editing hasn't really chopped up this film, then I'm going to say the pacing and the plot are fully at fault. Now, what you said, the actress that played Irene worked. Do you have anything else that worked? Do you agree with me on the sets, the props?
Yeah, but it makes me wonder if they're two different whole places. You know.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the set of the Tam Tam Club combined with the set of the bar works. Both of them work separately. Both of them work separately.
The setting of the lab and the setting of
the studio,
the
dressing room,
house.
Yeah.
Was pretty good. I
mean, tell me if I'm wrong on any of my
Yeah, there is the problem with, but I do think that it's
the problem with
the acting is. But to me, it felt like it was more. Something was either that was the what was written or what was directed.
do you think, and to attempt to cover all of our bases, do you think that it might be a problem with it being a German film versus what we're used to with a US film? Do you think there's a cultural difference here?
I think there is some, and it was dubbed.
It was dubbed, but I don't.
So I was trying to watch their faces, and what was bad was the film itself was kind of.
What I would say is I've watched German films, and I don't think they feel this disjointed in general. So, it's like when you watch Japanese film of this era, it's going to be slightly kiddie, like as science fiction, a Japanese science fiction film or horror film at this time. It's going to be slightly kiddie. It's going to be a bit cartoony. It's
somewhat disjointed,
but you can understand what's going on. This feels chopped.
It does feel chopped, I will give that, but if you put in the fact that it might have been edited for the US with getting rid of
Boobs.
Things that
they wouldn't have had like full frontal nudity. I'm thinking it was just like toplessness is what it was. I'm not recommending this film. You said you might.
I'm still might, and I shouldn't.
What's the fence? No fence sitting. Mine's I lightly don't recommend it because it's not that good of a film. I think the sets are the only thing that make it stand out.
Yeah, I don't think it's really watchable.
No, it isn't, and it's weird because I kind of went into this thinking, you know what, I'm going to give this a chance. I have never seen it. This is the first time I've ever watched this film. It's a German film. I was a little hesitant about doing German films because it's not like we've done tons of foreign films. We clearly did Stalker, that was Soviet. We've done a couple other Soviet films like Plenty to Burr,
and we've done a kaiju film.
We've done 3 kaiju films,
which is Japanese.
So I'm like, all right, you know what? Fair enough. I can do a West German movie because it is science fiction and it actually had some decent reviews
and
online.
I think we did something that was both American and
we've done American Japanese. We've done American and Japanese. The Green Slime is American Japanese co-production.
Didn't we do a U.S. Italian one?
I'm sure we have. But my non-recommendation is a light one because I think it is weird. I think that the sets are good. Like if I had to give it a 1 out of 10, 1 to 10, I would give it like a 4 out of 10, maybe a 3.5 if I wasn't feeling very generous. Is that kind of equivalent to what you would do?
I'd give it a 4.
About a 4. Like
because it is foreign and I might not be understanding it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like I was throwing things at the television. I was engaged in it. I just didn't think it was well done. So take that how you will. I guess if you're a fan of like West German science fiction of the 1950s and 60s, yeah, you're probably going to have already seen this. Or if you haven't seen it, go see it. But yeah, for us, it just didn't seemingly work that well. Is there anything else that you kind of want to talk about this film, Darlene?
Not really. I think that's about it. The one thing we did say is that we didn't think it was 1959. This was more like a 1954.
Yeah, what I said was
54.
If this was a U.S. film, it would have felt like it was made in 53, 54. Now, that's not a seemingly large difference in time, but I'm just saying that it felt like it was from earlier than 1959 in some regards.
But I would say the resets could have been done in today.
Yeah, some of the sets were fantastic. Like, yeah, I could remake this film and film it all at Max's South Sea Highways and just get a burlesque dancer in there.
And you'd have to have the lab.
Well, the lab, you just use the kitchen.
That's gross.
Do it after hours and clean everything before they open in the morning.
Gross.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put any, like, everyone will be clean in there. But I'm saying you could film it all at that one location. You could do this whole film, redo it cheap, and make it more coherent. Because I wouldn't put nudity in it, but I would try to like filter the whole
And
plot.
Since you're doing a South Seas thing, I would do it in like a Pacific or California like
Oh yeah.
idea of where it's at. And actually, I'd probably Guam or something like that with a tiki bar.
Sure, or
In
do
the
it in Honolulu.
1950s.
Do it in Honolulu.
In 1950.
Yeah, like 1953 Honolulu. And hey, that's great. Like that could be a really interesting remake. Anyway, we'll leave it there, folks. I hope you enjoyed listening. I don't know what we're going to do next. We'll probably do another Universal film of some sort. We still have to watch Black Cat.
Yes, and I have a few more that I wrote down. Matt, you wanted me to write Mark of the Vampire, which is 1935.
Yes, Queen of Blood.
That's
from-
1966. I don't know if you want Die Monster Die.
Maybe.
This one's Japanese. It's Warning from Space.
Yes, and then the Devil Bat.
The Devil Bat,
We've heard about the
1940.
Devil Bat. And Black Cat, which has Bela Lugosi and
So does the
it's Bela Lugosi. Yeah, yeah.
Devil Bat. I think is both of those are, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway,
Well, good night. This is Darlene.
I'm
Good
Aaron,
night.
and keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.